Hey guys, and welcome to another Game Explained discussion. I'm your host, Eric Bittner, and today I'm joined by Andre Seegers, who has recently been able to get some hands-on time with the new racing game from Ubisoft, The Crew. So let's see what he thought. So, Andre, what'd you think?
Yeah, so I got to play The Crew for a few hours. So the thing about this game is, it's more than just like a racing or a driving game. The way Ubisoft describes it as being like an MMO RPG on wheels, basically. It's definitely something I haven't quite played before, and that's also partially because I don't play too many racing games. But I would say it's closest that I can think of in similarity to Burnout Paradise. We have this large open environment, and then there are missions scattered all over that you can activate simply by just driving up to them. The thing about this game is, like, this world is gigantic. Like, it literally takes place in the United States, and you can drive, like, coast to coast. In my specific case, I drove from, like, New York down to Miami. And that took maybe 10 minutes, I want to say. That's just a rough guess, so don't take that as any kind of official estimate. But it took a while. And yeah, the whole thing with this game is, like, you're building up your car. Like, your car is your stand-in for, like, a character in an RPG. Where you can, by doing these missions, you get money or points, and you can cash those in to upgrade your car, making it better at more challenges down the line. And any of these challenges, you can have your friends join you too. They're playing at the same time as you, and you can all tackle these missions together. So there's just a lot. There's really a lot here, both in physical space and in smaller details.
Yeah, that seems to be the thing they're building up with this game to make it unique, is that it's a very seamless single/multiplayer experience. If you want to play this game on your own, you can, but if you want to invite your friends in for basically some help out with a mission, you can do that too. And I believe, isn't there sort of like a warp thing? Like, once you invite them and it's completely seamless, they'll get basically teleported to where you are, so you can start the mission together, correct?
Yeah, they'll get a little notification, and then they can hop right into your game. Doesn't matter where they are. In fact, the game, you can warp wherever you want at any time, basically. You can access a full map, and there's like these I can't remember if you might be able to go anywhere. If not, there are icons all over the map. You can warp to pretty much any of them. Just fast travel to them. So yeah, getting around's not an issue. Like, so you don't have to drive, from New York to Miami every time you want to, cross the coast. If although it's a lot of fun. I would recommend doing it at least a couple times.
Yeah, one of the things that struck me about this when I first heard about this game was, okay, you can be in New York, Miami, LA, Vegas, all that stuff, and a lot of different games build up these cities as sort of their own playground, not having multiple in there. And of course, this is a condensed version of the US. It only takes you 10 minutes to go from New York to Miami. But how detailed are the cities themselves?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, because I'm not too familiar with the East Coast, so I'm not so I wasn't able to do any direct comparisons like with how accurate it is. But you definitely get a really good feel for these cities. Going through them. I mean, New York obviously felt like New York. I believe I drove through Times Square, and it's completely recognizable. And then going down to Miami, or when I got to Florida, I even came across Cape Canaveral, and there was a space shuttle launching right as I think there was a space shuttle launching right as I drove past, which is weird because I think they canceled that program. But but that aside, it was a really cool detail, and I'm sure, I actually wish I had a chance to explore some West Coast cities, which I'm a lot more familiar with, just to see, how accurate they really are. But, there's a lot there, and they definitely capture the feel. Like, the closest thing I can think of, it reminded me a little bit of Palo Wings, which had little states, where it was a condensed version of the US, but it had these recognizable landmarks all over the place, and definitely gave you the feel of exploring those locations.
Very cool. Now, what exactly did the demo show for you?
So the demo was, it covered a lot of ground in a linear fashion. I mean, so everyone who was there, like, went through the same things. Again, if we started in New York, we worked our way down to Florida, but in that time, we checked out different mission types, different, like, skill challenges, because, like, when you're just driving around the environment, you can activate these, like, skill challenges, which, are basically, like, micro missions. And in these, like, one of them, when you drive through it, when you activate it, it'll just pop up like these pylons almost, kind of like Wave Race, and you drive around them, on the right side, or on the correct side. So you just weave around them while trying to get a good time, while dealing with, the traffic on the road. Like, the game environment, stays the same as it was, but now you just have these little pop-ups, telling you, where to go. And so, yeah, so there's the missions you can hop in, and some of the missions I saw, a lot of them were just standard races, which were still fun, especially trying to, the ones I took place in were against, there were CPU opponents in there as well, but there were also the human opponents, and so you're all racing against each other, just trying to get the best time to get the biggest reward. And then there was the takedown missions, where your goal is to take down a CPU-controlled vehicle that's just racing away across the environment, like, just going through the wilderness, and you're trying to catch up and take them down. And those are actually really tricky. Those are definitely ones you want to have teammates for. I did one by myself, and I barely caught up to the guy, so I wasn't able to take him down. But with teammates, you're able to head off the computer, head off the vehicle, and then just ram into him on the side, just take him down. And then beyond that, we played around with upgrading the vehicle using the rewards we gained, or the points we gained from the challenges. And that's pretty in-depth too, with how you're able to upgrade almost every facet of your car, like the engine, the suspension, I think tires, every major component. And it's cool how they present the information, because when you're cycling through each of the different portions you can upgrade, like you see the car being like torn down and to that part you're upgrading. So yeah, it's just all very well done, very well implemented from what I could tell. It just seemed really cool.
It does sound interesting, different, just the fact that they have such a combination there between the single and multiplayer, and the fact that there seems to be a good bit to do and nice incentives to enlist multiplayer. Now with the car, I guess one of the big questions for a racing game is how does it handle? Is it loose? Is it tight? Does it feel more arcadey? Is it more realistic?
So the interesting thing about the handling, or maybe the cars more specifically, is I believe there are 5 main different types. I think they're calling it specs in the game, like 5 different specs of vehicles. And each one handles, differently. So they have, there's the performance spec, which is built more for roads. Then there's a dirt spec, which is obviously used for off-roads. So each one has, their own pros and cons. So I found myself liking the dirt spec, I believe, or one of the similar specs, because I do like going off-road. And I just enjoyed like driving through the countryside, just mowing down like fences or whatever else was in my way. So the handling overall I thought was good. I'm not a huge fan of the simulation type of handling, and Gran Turismo or Forza. And I think this game strikes a pretty good balance between, arcadiness and simulation. Because, it is still kind of simulated focus with how you're upgrading your vehicle, and, so you can enhance its handling through these upgrades. So I didn't have any major issues. I think it probably skews a little bit closer to the simulation side of things. But I didn't find that to be a barrier to enjoying how the car's handled, especially going off road. Was a lot of fun. So it handled pretty well overall.
So I guess because of the whole single player multiplayer combination here, I guess the next big question is, how well does it feel to just hook up with other players and work on missions and do that sort of gameplay?
That felt really seamless, and as a result, it felt good. I mean, of course, that's going to depend entirely on who you're playing with, and I was just playing with basically a bunch of strangers I'd never met before. And even with that, it was still a lot of fun. Like, playing through these missions where it's kind of like it's somewhat co-op and somewhat competitive at the same time. Like in the takedown missions, for instance, where if I believe everyone gets a reward if you win, but if you're the one who helped the most, you get the bigger reward. So it's a lot like some Nintendo games in that respect, where you're all working together at the same time, but competing as well. And those are actually a lot of fun. I did enjoy, taking on those missions together, and especially with just really how seamless it is, because you've got your crew. If you want to start a mission together, you just drive up to the mission, press invite crew, and then the invite goes out to anyone that's part of that, and they can seamlessly join in. So it worked really well.
That's good to hear. It's an interesting concept. I'm hoping it works out well, because I'm not much of a multiplayer gamer. I like my single player and doing my own thing, especially with racing games. I just don't get the chance to race other people much. So maybe this aspect of it would maybe open me up to it more. Hard to say. Any other thoughts on the demo you played?
Yeah, I mean, it plays well. I thought it looked good. Visually, it looks very impressive, and especially when I saw like this, like Cape Canaveral, that was really cool. But again, I really want to play these West Coast cities, so I can definitely see how they've brought them to life. But yeah, it's a visually impressive game that is doing some unique things that I definitely will be curious to see more about when it comes out. Because with any game that's that markets itself as like an MMO type thing, or an open world type thing, a couple hours is you're really just scratching the surface, and there's so many mechanics here that it's going to take a lot more for me to fully for me to get an even better handle on the situation. And this is the most playtime I believe any journalist has had with the game so far. So I will be curious to see more at E3 and when the game finally does come out, of course. So yeah, seems promising. Definitely keep an eye out on this one if you're into racing, driving games, or are intrigued by the MMO mixture gameplay here.
All right, guys, that wraps it up for our discussion on The Crew. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And of course, be sure to stay tuned for more on The Crew and other things gaming too. All right, guys, bye.